What is going on, everyone, and welcome to my review of The Exorcism, directed by Joshua John Miller and starring Russell Crowe. This is a film that I was very interested in because I'd heard barely anything about it. There was no real marketing or anything like that. The only thing that I knew about it was that I was getting to see an advanced screening at my local cinema because they were holding an advanced screening for people who are members at the cinema. So I thought, Russell Crowe Exorcism movie? Probably going to be dog shit, but the Popes Exorcist was actually quite a good surprise. So I went last night to check this one out, and I thought I'm going to give you my thoughts on it now, before the film officially releases, so that you don't have to go and see it. So The Exorcism is a really kind of bizarre film, and I'm going to explain to you right now what it actually is. It is a film about a man who is playing the role of a priest in a film. He's an actor, he's playing the role of a priest in a film where a woman has a young daughter who is being possessed. This is a film about the making of The Exorcist, okay? Joshua John Miller directed this film, and he is the son of Jason Miller, the star of the original Exorcist. The working title for this film was The Georgetown Project, which Georgetown is the name of the town that The Exorcist takes place in. And the surname of Russell Crowe's character is Miller, just like Jason Miller's surname. And he is playing a man who is losing his faith, and he has to regain his faith to help this young girl out of this horrible situation. I don't know why they tried to keep it hidden, but everything about it is that it is a film about the making of The Exorcist, one of the most controversial films ever made, partly because it was said to be a cursed production, with cast members dying during the production of the film. So I thought that might be really interesting. And to a degree, it kind of is. It is kind of an interesting concept. Like, what if we've got like a kind of a fictional version of the making of The Exorcist, where instead of just a complete series of coincidences, horrific coincidences where cast members started dying, what if there actually was something happening? Now, to be perfectly technical, it is about the production of a remake of The Exorcist. It takes place in modern day, but for some reason, they don't want to say the words The Exorcist. They talk about it in passing, but not talking about it as though that's what they're making here. Like, for example, the opening scene has one of the cast members being killed by something. And then they're talking about it, and they're like, oh, they've always said that films like The Omen and The Exorcist and Poltergeist have had cursed productions. But they never actually acknowledge that they're making a film that is actually called The Georgetown Project, that is The Exorcist. Literally, one of the characters at one stage grabs the script and reads it and goes, oh, yeah, okay, so this is a remake of the... I'm like, why is this movie trying to keep it hidden from us? With that being said, let's move on from that tangent. So, to repeat myself again, it is kind of a cool concept. I do like that idea, them making a fictitious version of the making of The Exorcist. It is cool. And Russell Crowe is good in the leading role. He's always really good. I think he does a great job at trying to play a troubled man who is trying to build himself back together, and he finds this acting role where the role very much represents the situation and the struggle that he's in right now. He is struggling with addiction issues, and he is completely lost his faith. He lost his faith a long time ago, but he's trying to regain his faith. And that role kind of speaks to him in a way, and he does a good job at showing that this role definitely has something in common with him, and to the point that it's almost crossing over into his personal life, and that the film really discusses how method acting or just performances in general and getting into the headspace of these characters can have a negative effect on the actor mentally. And Russell Crowe does a really good job with all of that. I thought Ryan Simpkins, who plays his daughter, also did a good job. I liked their relationship together. There's something kind of weird. Obviously, they're estranged, but she always calls Russell Crowe, her dad, by his first name, Tony, which is really strange. I don't know why she keeps calling him that, but aside from that, I thought they had a really good relationship together. And finally, there were some fun scenes. I'm not going to say that there wasn't. There were some really quite fun scenes with, just random contortion shit happening like that, as you can imagine. Very stock standard for exorcism films, but when it's Russell Crowe being the one contorted, you can't help but laugh at it a bit. And when he's saying the most filthy shit, for example, his daughter's a lesbian, and there's one part in the film when he just goes, "She'll never eat out your pussy, you fucking dyke." It is funny. It got the audience laughing. It's intended to be horrific, but it's funny at least. With everything good that I can scrape from this film, it's time for me to say right now, this film fucking sucks. It was really, really shit. And, like, we've had some bad horror films this year. It's not quite as bad as Strangers Chapter 1 or Tarot, but it's close. It is very, very bad. It feels like an unfinished film. The edit is so strange, and things just keep happening in the film that never get addressed back to again. It feels just completely hacked up. For example, there is a sequence when Russell Crowe is standing out the window of his high-rise New York apartment, and he fucking jumps from the window all the way down the bloody 20 floors or whatever it is. And then they just cut to the next day, and Russell Crowe's back on set. I'm like, what? This guy just jumped off of a window. He should be dead for sure. What is going on? How do you just ignore that? And there's another part where he's smashing his face into the table again and again and again, and then they just cut to the next day, and it's just like, sorry, does this dude not have brain damage, or has he not split his head open or something like that? Because they're just ignoring what's happening. This film, it does something, and then it just seems to pretend as though it never happened. It is so strange. And on top of all of that, when you really think about it, it's a film where the events of The Exorcist are starting to happen to the actor that is portraying Father Karras. So that could be cool, but what it ends up meaning is that basically this film just goes through beat for beat what happens in The Exorcist, but just does it really poorly and tries to apply it to a different person. So instead of... I have to talk about this. So you remember in The Exorcist when Reagan walks downstairs and pisses all over the floor? Yeah, there's a scene in this where Russell Crowe is standing there naked and he just starts pissing everywhere. Like, you cannot write this shit. And then there's obviously, you know, him being held out with the crucifix and rah, and him saying horrible things to his family members. And then obviously the final set piece in the bloody freezer bedroom. It's just like, it's The Exorcist, but instead of it happening to a little girl, it's Russell Crowe. And they don't even try and do anything more. They kind of introduce the idea that possession could be an allegory for alcoholism and how he's struggling. And also discuss how an actor's role can impact the actor's life. There was some cool stuff here. But it ended up basically being a movie about a remake of The Exorcist that ended up just being a remake of The Exorcist in its own right, just done horrendously. And there's something about it too, the fact that Russell Crowe is teleporting, he's telepathically closing doors and knocking things over. He jumps off of the roof of a building and survives. What does his daughter say to him? "You're drinking again, aren't you?" Bitch! What? All in all, The Exorcism does have its fair share of funny moments. And it does introduce some interesting ideas that could have been executed well. Russell Crowe does a good job in the leading role with what he is given. But in the end, it ends up just being another Exorcism movie. And quite literally another Exorcist movie. It's not as bad as Exorcist Believer, but like Exorcist Believer, it's basically just going beat for beat through the original film with a new layer of paint on it. This film is a Snoozefest. So that is my review of The Exorcism. Don't watch this one because it is not good at all. But, I'm speechless. Russell Crowe standing there naked, pissing all over the floor. You cannot write this shit. But if you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe and comment and let me know what you thought of The Exorcism if you watch it. And I will see you all later. Bye.